Let's be honest. A bob haircut can either frame your face beautifully, or it can completely clash with your glasses. And the strange thing is, you don't always notice it right away. You just look in the mirror one day, or catch your reflection in a photo, and think, why do I look tired? For the longest time, I thought it was the glasses. So I changed frames, again and again, but nothing really helped. Until I realized the problem wasn't on my nose. It was framing my entire face. Because after 50, everything softens. Our features change, our hair changes, and suddenly the bob we've worn for years feels off, but we don't know why. I used to believe short hair is simple, just trim and go. But after too many disappointing selfies, I finally saw what was missing. It's not about having a trendy bob. It's about having a bob that fits you and your glasses effortlessly. This isn't about makeovers or chasing trends. It's about the small, smart changes that make your cut and your frames work together, not fight each other. So in this video, I'll walk you through 5 of the most common bob mistakes I see women over 50 make when wearing glasses, and more importantly, show you how to fix them with subtle, graceful adjustments that actually fit the life you live. Let's start with the one mistake I made for years without realizing it: the super blunt bob that quietly overpowers your glasses. A blunt bob can look incredibly sleek, in theory. But when you pair it with glasses, especially bold or structured frames, that clean horizontal line across your jaw can suddenly feel heavy, harsh, and overwhelming. Here's what happens. The sharp edge of the haircut competes directly with the shape of your glasses. It pulls the eye downward and draws attention to the jaw, which for many of us after 50 is an area we'd prefer to soften, not spotlight. I've seen this mistake countless times, and truthfully, I've made it myself. I once wore a blunt, chin-length bob with thick, square frames. In every photo, I looked tense and boxed in, not modern, just rigid. And the worst part, I didn't realize it was the haircut. I blamed the outfit, the makeup, even my posture. But really, it was that solid, unforgiving line competing with my glasses. Now, how do you fix it without starting from scratch? Instead of asking your stylist for a clean, blunt cut, try requesting softened ends or internal texture. And no, this doesn't mean messy, choppy layers. It's about asking for just enough lightness in the last inch or two, so the edges break up gently instead of shouting over your frames. Think of it as whispering the edge into place rather than drawing a bold underline. A stylist friend of mine calls it airing out the edge, and that's exactly what it feels like. Already have a blunt bob? You don't need to cut it all off. Ask your stylist to dust in soft texture, a tiny invisible adjustment that can lift the whole look without changing the shape. And when you soften that line, something amazing happens. Your glasses stop looking like a barrier and start looking like part of the design. The whole look becomes more balanced, more feminine, and more graceful. Let's move to mistake number 2, one that has everything to do with length, proportions, and where your bob lands on your face. One of the most common and most overlooked mistakes women make when choosing a bob with glasses is getting the length just slightly off. A bob that ends at mid-neck or right at the jawline might seem classic, but depending on your face shape and the size of your frames, it can actually create a downward drag. Instead of lifting the face, it breaks the visual flow, often making your cheeks look fuller and your jaw more pronounced. Here's why that happens. Your glasses already create a strong horizontal line across your face. Now, if your bob ends at that same level, especially around the widest part of your cheeks, the eye gets stuck. The overall effect can feel boxy or short, with no vertical movement to elongate or balance. Here's something I've learned, both through experience and through styling others. Start by using your glasses as a guide. If your frames are bold or oversized, try letting your bob fall just below the bottom of the lenses. That little extra length helps soften the transition and keeps the eye moving downward in a gentle line. If your frames are lighter or more minimalist, you can go shorter, but still avoid ending your hair exactly where the glasses sit. When the two intersect visually, the look can feel busy or compressed. Think of it less as face framing and more as balance framing. You're not just flattering your features, you're creating harmony between two strong elements, your hair and your glasses. And if you're unsure what length works best, here's a practical trick I use with clients. Take a selfie holding a ruler vertically next to your face. Mark where your lenses end. Then, using a virtual try-on tool or even by pinning your current hair up in sections, test where your bob could land to elongate your neck and keep the look clean. Because after 50, every inch counts, and getting that length right, even by a small margin, can completely shift how lifted, polished, and effortless your entire face appears. Next, let's look at mistake number 3, one that might be subtly working against you from the top. The center part that exposes thinning. There's a reason center parts are everywhere. They're sleek, symmetrical, and easy to maintain. But when you wear glasses, and especially if your hair has started to thin at the crown, as it often does after 50, a strict center part can do more harm than good. It creates a direct path for the eye, right to your scalp, and under certain lighting, like sunlight or harsh bathroom mirrors, even mild thinning can look more exposed than it truly is. To make things trickier, glasses tend to press gently against the temples. That subtle pressure can separate the top section of your hair even more, leaving the crown looking flatter, more open, and, let's be honest, less flattering. None of this is about shame. Thinning hair is incredibly common and nothing to feel bad about. But knowing how to part your hair strategically, that's a small adjustment with a big payoff. One shift that makes a noticeable difference: move the part slightly off-center. Not a deep swoop or dramatic change, just a gentle shift to one side. This introduces a bit of asymmetry, which breaks up the visual line and subtly redirects focus away from the crown. Even better, it adds soft lift at the roots, especially if you finger comb the hair in the opposite direction while drying. Then set it gently in place. There's also a little trick I love: zigzagging the part slightly with a comb. It's not visible to the casual eye, but it breaks up scalp visibility and gives a natural, airy look, even without heavy styling products. And here's something most women don't expect: your glasses can actually help, especially if you wear frames with a bit of lift at the corners or small design details near the temples. Those touches pull the eye outward rather than upward, balancing out the top of your head and flattering your entire upper face. It's a small adjustment, but it can restore fullness, softness, and shape in a way no product ever could. Now, let's talk about movement, or rather, what happens when your bob doesn't have any. A one-length bob may look sleek in a salon photo, but in real life, especially when you wear glasses, it can fall flat. Literally. Without layers, Your bob lacks internal movement, and when glasses sit on top of that shape, gently pressing the hair near the temples and sides, it can leave your look feeling heavy through the cheeks and flat across the crown. It's an easy trap to fall into, thinking that fewer layers mean easier maintenance. But here's the quiet truth. At this stage in life, volume doesn't come from product. It comes from structure. And smart layering is what creates that kind of invisible structure, the kind that holds your bob in place without stiffness or effort. What works beautifully is this. Ask your stylist for soft, face-framing layers that begin just at or below where your eyeglass frames rest. That way, your hair opens up your features rather than crowding them. At the crown, ask for gentle internal layers, not sharp or stacked, just enough to add quiet lift at the roots. Think of it as scaffolding beneath the surface, subtle, supportive, and barely visible, but essential. Here's a styling trick I always return to. When you blow dry your hair, use your fingers to lift the roots at the temple and crown. Let them cool while held slightly upward. That brief hold helps your hair remember the shape, even after your glasses go on. And if you travel, wear hats, or just don't want to restyle your hair every few hours, those layers will help your bob bounce back naturally. They add flexibility, so your style moves with you instead of collapsing as the day wears on. The point of layering isn't to make your bob edgy or trendy. It's to make it alive, with subtle shape, lift, and lightness that flatters your face without ever feeling fussy. Next, let's talk about color. Because even the most flattering cut can fall flat if the tone is wrong, especially when glasses enter the picture. Hair color isn't just about covering grays or keeping things fresh. It's about creating harmony, especially when glasses are part of your everyday look. And here's something many women don't realize until they see it for themselves. Your glasses can change the way your hair color looks. And the wrong hair color can make even the most flattering cut feel off. That sleek single-tone bob you loved in your 30s, with mature skin and bold frames, it can suddenly look heavy, flat, or even harsh. I like to think of it this way. Your face is the canvas, your glasses are the frame, and your hair? That's the lighting. When all three work together, the result is cohesive, soft, and quietly radiant. When one is out of sync, everything feels slightly off, even if you can't quite put your finger on why. So what makes the difference? It's not about going dramatically lighter or trendier. It's about adding depth and dimension, soft highlights and lowlights placed just right to reflect light back onto your skin and eyes. The key is subtlety. Think gentle ribbons of warm or cool tones woven through your natural base. Not chunky, not streaky, just enough to bring movement and softness, especially around the face and temples, where glasses tend to draw attention. If you wear silver or black frames, soft ash or champagne tones can balance the coolness. If your glasses are warm, maybe tortoiseshell or bronze, richer shades like honey or soft caramel can add harmony without going brassy. And if you wear your natural gray or white, beautiful. But even silver hair benefits from a clear gloss or toner, something to keep it luminous and reflective, especially near the temples where glasses rest. Dullness tends to settle there first, and just a touch of tone can change how vibrant the whole cut feels. Hair color at this stage isn't about reinvention. It's about reflection of light, of personality, and of who you are now. Now, let's pull everything together with a quick recap. And one final thought about how your bob and your glasses can finally stop competing and start working beautifully together. Let's take a moment to recap what we covered. We talked about the sharp, blunt bob that competes with your frames, the wrong length that shortens rather than lifts your face, the center part that unintentionally exposes thinning, the lack of layers that leaves your style flat and heavy, and the hair color that quietly drains you instead of lighting you up. But here's the real takeaway. Your bob and your glasses aren't two separate choices. They're partners. When they're in sync, in balance, in tone, in structure, something shifts. You don't just look polished. You feel more aligned with yourself, confident, graceful, quietly pulled together in a way that doesn't try too hard. And the best part, you don't need a reinvention. You just need a few thoughtful changes, a part that softens, a length that flatters, a texture that moves, and a tone that reflects the light back to you. That's all it takes to turn a safe haircut into one that truly belongs to you and works beautifully with your everyday life. Now I'd truly love to hear from you. Have you ever had a bob that looked great until you added your glasses? Or maybe the other way around? A haircut that finally made your frames feel right? Let's share stories in the comments. You never know. Your experience might be the exact thing another woman needs to hear today.